The land of extreme was now a thing of the past. WWE's iteration of ECW hadn't gone down very well and seemed to go through a couple of resets. The first in June of 2006, the reset in January of 2007 where ECW Tag Team Championships were almost brought onto the show, and for as much struggles ECW faced, the summer of 2007 was its most consistent since the launch because they had the idea of what the show should be and weren't going to deviate from it. Sure, some things got in the way such as the Chris Benoit thing, but ECW was mostly the same from here on until the end in 2010. And ECW had some good in it. It introduced certain talent to the WWE stage, and perhaps its most successful wrestler to come from ECW was CM Punk. The Second City Saint was forged from a rugged independent circuit. One of, hell, it's the greatest independent set of talent in wrestling history. Punk was always a guy that WWE valued for the most part, and there was some hiccups there, you know, and you'd hear rumors of heat in January 2007. That's constant with this era of WWE. But Punk was in some great positions. Paul Heyman pushed hard for him, and despite Vince not listening initially, by WrestleMania 23 time, ECW was mostly centered around him. He featured in Money in the Bank, was involved in the brand's big faction war, story as the main guy that the New Breed and ECW originals were vying for, and not too long after, he was challenging for the ECW Championship in a singles match on pay-per-view. Oh, we don't like to talk about that match that was supposed to go down. It was supposed to be a great opportunity to see what was a dream match become fulfilled. Chris Benoit and CM Punk would have been a great match, but instead the night of June 24th, 2007 lives in infamy due to Benoit's actions outside of the ring. The Punk push kept on rolling. He was off to becoming the main face of the ECW brand with nobody close in sight. The second biggest face was the Boogeyman. That tells you all you need to know. Punk was pushing heavily and chasing the ECW title off the back of Johnny Nitro turned John Morrison. The chase was going and going and going, but then he got popped by the wellness policy. This was supposed to end at a pay-per-view, but WWE decided to punish Morrison then and there on the September 4th, 2007 episode of ECW. This battle was promoted as a last chance match for CM Punk. He could not challenge for the ECW title as long as Morrison was champion if he lost. Now, Punk wasn't really proud of his matches with Morrison up to this point, and that's because of their chemistry. Both men were talented, but just couldn't connect until this night. They did well for themselves here, and it wasn't awkward or a match that wasn't hitting, not at all. If anything, this was CM Punk's best match in WWE up to this point. Plenty of drama with this one. CM Punk was all over John Morrison initially with a strong foundation. Going up to the top was bound to fail, and just when it did, Morrison took control. He slows down the pace, but also exhibits that style he's known for. Big superplex, and it's time for Act 3. Punk is unlocked, he dishes it out, the untouchable momentum, and Morrison was faced. Morrison did find an important opening, but learned that Starship Pain wasn't going to solve his issues here. Great back and forth, they teased Morrison stealing it again, and Punk hit a devastating enziguri. Morrison tried the springboard, but failed and fell victim to the GTS 1, 2, 3, new champion. This was a pretty good match. WWE didn't really used to give their guys a lot of time like here, and the reason why I'm saying that is because watching this match from a 2025 perspective, it looks solid, but when you watch it from a 2007 perspective, it's much more than that. Morrison was suspended after the match for about a month, and it also hurt Punk's reign a bit because the main heel of ECW wasn't going to be around. Elijah Burke answered the call. He was made the next challenger to the title, and Burke was happy to get the chance. He said he was the first person to believe in CM Punk months ago and considered him for the New Breed. But he wanted that title. The champion told him to stop looking into the future and instead focus on right now. This escalates and Burke got his ass beat later that night in tag team action. It didn't bode well for his chances. Unforgiven was another one of those messy Punk and Burke matches, and these two just didn't match at all. Regular heel work from Burke here to wear down Punk. He went after the back here with CM Punk having no answer to this assault, and the fans were fully behind the champion. He was on offense for most of the match, and while it's not a favorite of mine, a move like this looking devastating is an amazing accomplishment. The psychology was on point here because there wasn't many moments Burke didn't go after the back. Instead, they made him look strong by having Punk win with a roll-up, and it was odd. I guess they still valued Burke here because they didn't want to let him lose clean. He was supposed to get yet another title shot later that week on ECW, but it seemed like his title shot was going to be for another time. It was instead going to be Big Daddy V. Now we could go on and on about how this attire is tragic and sad, but as a kid, I thought this guy was 99 overall. It shouldn't have been that way, especially with him growling like a dog. Like, how you going to take this guy serious? But I did. Punk was taken aback by this challenge of Big Daddy V. It almost felt like he was going up against an impossible battle. Their match at No Mercy was strange. I had the privilege of watching No Mercy 2007 as a kid. Wonderful show, but with regards to this match, Tommy Dreamer and storyline was supposed to challenge here, but they changed plans. This part gave me flashbacks, but it was just him mauling Punk, and the match lasted 2 minutes with Matt Striker running in when Punk gained momentum. He looked so bad in his hometown, but then again, Big Daddy V was a new thing at this point. They weren't gonna have him lose clean. Punk was broken and battered to the point where John Morrison beat him clean later that week. It was a great ending with Morrison obliterating him in his neck with a brutal reverse superplex. He put his name in contention for the title with that victory. Punk had 3 opponents for Cyber Sunday. The Miz ended up winning the vote because he didn't have a bunch of matches with Punk and because he wasn't going to wrestle at a snail's pace. While Miz wasn't that good of a performer at this point, he still had a much better match with Punk here than Burke would ever have. The champion was stuck with Miz and Morrison, and for weeks, these were the same people he faced And while the matches weren't bad, his title reign desperately needed variety. There was this SmackDown and ECW talent initiative that allowed for Punk to wrestle on SmackDown a bit at the time, but his matches weren't much barring one near the end of the title reign. The Miz and Morrison really despised each other, which is funny seeing how things ended up a few weeks later, and Survivor Series was probably the best match in Punk's title reign. The triple threat rule allowed for more interesting moments here, and while they didn't have a lot of time, they still made a match out of it. The near falls and spots were coming right from the beginning. It really passes by fast and doesn't waste any time in being a match. Miz and Morrison had this short-lived partnership, great moments and athleticism here, and this was probably the best moment in the entire match. Punk managed to retain the title here and move on to no challengers. A very good match though, you weren't going to see one close to this one in the title reign. His next feud didn't involve the title. It was the two monsters, Mark Henry and Big Daddy V. These two were so overwhelming that Punk needed an equalizer, and that was Kane. So this led to a match at Armageddon. Basic tag team match, except it's in slow motion for the most part, which is expected. Punk took the clean pinfall here, which when you look at the guys in the ring, was bound to happen. It ain't Viscera. You know, he's repackaged now, things are different. But it took a while for his next challenger. Ended up being Chavo Guerrero. Chavo made a statement by leaving the champion laying with a frog splash, and he had his explanations for attacking CM Punk. It was of course for the title, but the champion told him that he's right here if he wants the chance. Armando Estrada didn't want the match then and there, and instead he made their match a non-title match. Very dull match that saw Chavo work the leg. It's one of those matches that has nothing of substance, very boring, and the finish was a countout. Yeah, WWE had a roster drought because why is Chavo challenging for the title? Unfortunately, they had the rematch the following week and it didn't go well again. Punk won by DQ here, and it got to the point where Edge had to step in here to get into Punk's head for his good friend Chavo Guerrero. Edge asked an amazing question. Since Punk has become champion, who has he beat? And there's obviously logic behind that because this title reign hasn't been the best. The champion said he had some respect for Chavo, but said he could beat him anytime. Even said he could beat Edge, and you guys know when Edge does this face, he's super offended. Edge said he was young and stupid once like Punk, but this wasn't no joke for him. He wasn't messing around here. Chavo came out and reminded him that if he beats him, he gets the title shot. Punk said that this is going to be a common occurrence seeing as Chavo can't beat him, and Edge took advantage and they jumped him. They battered him and left him at a disadvantage for the main event. The World Heavyweight Champion made it seem like he was leaving, but then he returned at the end of the night to watch this. Now, why did WWE subject the fans to another match between these two? I don't know, but Chavo won this with the help of Edge to finally get the title shot. Edge was trying his best to will into existence a Chavo Guerrero title reign, and with regards to this match, since it's a title match, we gotta talk about it quick. The title match wasn't that good. They spent so much time together, but it just wasn't working for them. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. It ain't Chavo and Ray. It ain't Punk and Cena, that's not any of that. Chavo wasn't a real threat in storyline seeing as he's Chavo, but Edge came to the rescue once again to end the title reign after nearly 5 months. So there it is. The title reign ended on a whimper, and it was obvious seeing as they had dragged this feud for about a month up to this point. My favorite urban myth is that Chavo snitched on some wrestlers with the wellness policy stuff and got rewarded with the title. I never believed this rumor, but it's funny because of how outrageous it is. The match randomly became no DQ, so Edge's interference wasn't strange. That's the end of CM Punk's title reign. Now with regards to this title run, very forgettable. I almost felt let down making this video seeing as Punk wasn't doing much during his title run. I really expected more, but that's just based off memory. Actually watching it here, there's literally not much around. There is the triple threat match, the match with John Morrison, but other than that, there's nothing. There's nothing in here, and he was just holding the belt because nobody else could hold it. And that's that. I feel like WWE didn't know what to do with the title reign, seeing as the ECW roster wasn't stacked. Morrison violated the wellness policy, and while Punk was fairly pushed in the early parts of the year, that doesn't translate to a good title reign. WWE's version of ECW had a clear roster issue that would affect a lot of their title reigns. Christians didn't have this issue because similar to Punk here, he actually interacted with some of the more notable talent on SmackDown, but also having a revolving door of constant challengers wanting an opportunity at the gold. This title reign is so forgettable, and the only thing memorable about it is CM Punk wearing the gold. And when that's the most memorable thing, it tells you all you need to know with a title reign like this. ECW had great potential before it all changed. A stacked roster, some newcomers, and now it was a situation where WWE had to make good on the fact that they had a third brand. If there's any good to come out of it, it's the fact that some talent developed well, but on screen, you can just see how light the roster was. Repackages to the likes of Big Daddy V to make them seem like threats, doing the talent initiative to allow for more SmackDown wrestlers to be on the show. They were doing a lot to mask the weakness that was of ECW. And a part of that affected CM Punk's title reign. The best match in this title reign was Survivor Series 2007. The Miz and Morrison really helped a lot here. Their action was fast, it was entertaining, they didn't waste their time. Other than that, there's really not much with the title run. So yeah. Alright, what do you guys think of CM Punk's title reign? Please comment down below. That's for his video. Make sure you hit the Anaconda voice on the like button or perhaps the GTS on the subscribe button. Peace out.